Hi! Ako si Dr. Anna Tuazon, isang psychologist at professor at kukwentuhan nyo sa share ko lang. Today, makakausap natin ang content creator na may tattoo sa buong katawan, pati sa muka at mata, si Deedee Villegas, the queen with the eyeball tattoos. So I'm curious about your very first tattoo. Yeah, what was the reason behind it? I'm sure may story.
My very first tattoo was actually a Hello Kitty tattoo. It's a colored one here sa neck ko. There was a stage, adolescent stage, that I experienced yung identity crisis, peer pressure, rebellion stage siguro, and I just couldn't fit in. I couldn't fit in a box. I couldn't fit in with people. And there was a dark time that I had to undergo medications for anxiety and let's say mental health concerns. Ganon. At first, yung tattoos served as an accessory. Parang feel ko, ay pag nagpatattoo ako, I think this would make me fit in.
Parang it sounds like, if it's okay not, parang it sounded like your experience at the time, you didn't feel strong. You
True.
Didn't feel that you belonged, sabi mo nga, and like you needed something to help you, to make you look stronger, to make you look cooler. I saw in some other interviews and presses about, that you also experienced a bit of bullying, I think, when you were younger. Did that happen before that first tattoo?
It did. Growing up kasi Doc, I was exposed naman to out to the outside world, but as a flamboyant kid, I had a hard time interacting with other children except sa cousins ko because I grew up living my life as part of the LGBTQ. When I started getting the tattoo, the bullying was not as worse when I was in grade school. People would think I'm cool. People would think I'm a strong individual, kahit LGBT ako, ganon. So it all started as a step for me siguro to rebel and at the same time to find myself. But then again, due to my young age, it turned out na the design was not really something that I see myself growing up with or having until I get to a certain age. So, pinacover ko siya.
Even if it's not there anymore, I think we can still say thank you kay Hello Kitty. No? Na parang you needed help. You needed to not feel too alone, I guess, or too vulnerable. Yeah. So, did that help you with your anxiety when you first had your first tattoos?
For me, actually, it helped me a lot to go through the medication, through the anxiety and depression stage. From a fashion accessory, later on in my life, as I aged, it became like a lifestyle. And it has given me my identity that I always wanted to find when I was younger. So, did it help me? Yes. Was it like that point talaga na feel ko, ito yung magliligtas sa akin? Honestly, no. It helped me, but it also required a lot of patience evolving over the years to reach where I am right now.
So, you mentioned, parang sometimes, di ba, parang depression and anxiety can sort of start that impulse, right? Like, I want to put something here. I guess I'm curious about the more emotional, the more emotional ones, right?
Side of it.
So, hindi naman necessarily or something so impulsive that you just happen to be in the shop, but it's like, I just need something to express what I'm going through. Yeah. What are one of the more emotionally meaningful?
Every time na tinatanong ko sa question na yan, I always get emotional. Because there's a unicorn. Ito, I'm not sure if visible siya, but there's a unicorn sa my chest ko. And that was the very first tattoo na hindi tribal pattern that I got. So it was some sort of ibang genre, ibang style, ibang process. The thing that prompted me to get the unicorn tattoo, my name siya, and I think people on TikTok know it. I named it Ingrid. It was the time na I finished all the medications. I was getting better, and I stopped going to my mandatory therapy sessions. And yun, parang I told myself na, oh my God, I got through a very dark stage in life. And I think I deserve a reward, a trophy, but at the same time, something permanent that would always remind me kung ano yung achievement or napagdaanan ko. So yeah, Ingrid the Unicorn is here sa chest ko, and that's why it's a unicorn, because it's, we all know that unicorns are fictional, and I want to, parang symbolism siya that growing through the darkest stage of my life was somehow fictional or impossible. I thought that I'm not gonna be able to go through with it, but it happened. So, and I chose the chest para naman to remind me na it's something heavy and it's something near to my heart. And makikita ko siya always when I see the mirror to remind me how strong and beautiful I am.
In a way, kasi sabi mga fictional and yet permanently on your chest. Fictional yet, is it parang a way to remind yourself na actually no, everything you went through. Kasi I notice, di ba? Sometimes there are things you'd like to forget.
True.
Some things you don't like to think about. And yet tattoos are permanent markers and reminders. I'm curious about that, di ba? So in a way, I'm wondering, you want to forget and maybe remember at the same time?
Yeah, so maybe forget the feeling of being helpless, forget the feeling of being in that position, forget the feeling of emotional damage, forget the feeling of things that you don't want to feel again. Ganon. Yun yung forget na part. But at the same time, remember and remind naman is to remember that you made it. Remember that you had people who were there. Remember that you did it. So yeah, it's a complete balance to forget things and also be reminded or to remember things that are not so good, but you went through with it, and these are things that you can be proud of.
Kasi it's very important, no? Kasi yun na nga, parang a lot of my clients, a lot of people that I know, diba, syempre, all of us, parang we struggle na, what do we forget? What do we keep? Diba? Parang, syempre, it's nice to just say, forget all the bad things, focus on the good things, which is toxic positivity, right? Sometimes because these things are, diba, the invisible pains, diba? Hindi nakikita. And sometimes, that tattoos is for yourself when you see yourself in the mirror, and also to say, hey, here is me, this is my life map. And you don't need to know what they mean, diba? That meaning is for you. And yet, see, here it is. Proof. I exist with my emotions, with my experiences, with my struggle. Sabi mo nga, is that an intentional thing na, okay, I wanna mark this moment?
Yung sabi ko kanina, it helped me through depression and anxiety po. So parang, if there's something that is challenging, I always turn back to the ink and the needle. Parang sabi ko, I think it's time for me to get another tattoo done. Ganon. So most of them are really planado. Actually, it takes like weeks or months before I get it. There are times naman that are very spontaneous. Like, I wanna get a tattoo right now. Kung nasa shop ako, parang ganon. Parang parang may mood din siya on bad days or in good days. But most of them are really planned thoroughly and scheduled, which is something that I want people to remember, that these are permanent. So you have to, to be at your full or at your best self when deciding.
So what do you see now when you look at yourself in the mirror and you see that unicorn and you remind yourself the time that you got it? You look at yourself, what is it that you say or think to yourself at that moment?
Oh my God, I love it. Kasi before I needed that question, because before I went into the Zoom interview or this interview, I am actually feeling a bit challenge, sa ongoing COVID dito sa Cebu, at tapos after Odette, the super typhoon pa, tapos right now the bagyo. And that was something that I wanted to do before I went with this interview. to look at myself in the mirror, or to say something positive, or reinforce something or reassure myself, because we still have the scars to remind us, but that's the beauty of living, knowing that you're weak at some points, but there are also strong points in your life. And even if it's quite challenging, when I look at the mirror, I feel proud. That's the number one word that comes to myself. Proud, because pinaghirapan ko not just things that I earned, but pinaghirapan ko to be in this state, to be maybe not the best version of myself right now, but pinaghirapan ko to have this version, which is way, way better than who I was years ago.
I really like na sinabi mo, I am strong, I am also weak. Kasi actually, we need to remember, when we say weak kasi, di ba, it means I am human. I am vulnerable to certain things. And people think, no, we shouldn't think of our weaknesses. Again, di ba, the toxic positivity. Just focus on the strengths. Sa akin, it's very important to remind ourselves that we can also be weak. Kasi guess what? It will remind us that we need to take care of ourselves. Di ba? Parang, kaya mo, and medyo kailangan mo ng aruga. Di ba? Medyo, baka hindi mo kailangan sobrang sumabak today. Di ba? Parang you don't need to put yourself through things all the time. I really like that. And then sabi mo nga, at the end of the day, both strengths and weaknesses, this that represents me. And I look at it. Kung mirror yan, no? Sorry. Kung mirror yan talaga. And then you smile and say, di ba? I am proud.
Nakaka-proud. Parang emotional ako sa part na to, my God. But yes, yeah. Something na we have to be reminded.
There's one aspect to your life story that I'm also curious about, if it's okay. You mentioned kasi na, di ba, there's a goth phase, and I'm not quite sure kung ano yung nauna. Kung nauna yung goth, nauna yung tattoos. And actually, I'm asking because a lot of Filipinos probably are not too aware. And then maybe it's good to let them know what that is. So, can you describe to us, the goth identity that you have, or kasi that's also a community.
It started out as a revolution. It started out as a fashion statement, depicting darker shades, wearing all black, embracing dark elements in fashion. So it's not that you're worshiping the devil. It's not that you're rebellious or ano-ano pa yan. Mga naririnig natin mga misconception na it promotes depression, or it promotes negative suicidal thoughts, ganon. It is a fashion. It's not for everyone. It's something that you don't need to understand fully, but be informed about, and just give a bit of respect to choices. Usually, they think the tattoos or the look is cool, fashionable, astig, yung mga terms. The much more kabatch namin, of course, hindi ko ma-get rid, or hindi ko matakasan yung stigma or yung perception na it's either galing ng preso, or walang ginagawa sa buhay, addict, kriminal, ganon. So, those are things, or those are terms that I usually hear, if not in front of my face talaga, is yung mga side comments sa public transpo, ganon.
Now, I'll put on the hat of parents, kasi when I talk to children and their parents, the first thing parents worry about pag gusto ng mga anak nila na magpa-tattoo, magpa-piercing, hala, hindi ka makakakuha ng trabaho, anak. Di ba yan sila? And here you are, may day job. Was there any problems at all keeping it, getting it?
True. So Doc, first off is, it is true naman talaga, not 100% but in the Philippines right now, we are still applying the very, let's say, old-fashioned standards when it comes to work. That was way back when I started applying for jobs. We are so lucky that the Philippines is evolving. There are industries na pwede nang may mga tattoos, In my part, yung sa BPO industry at sa events, they are very open to it. So we're just very lucky na I didn't experience like full discrimination, or I didn't experience being stripped of my privilege or opportunities to work with the companies that I work with. Advice ko lang sa mga bata is they have to know which employers or what industry they are trying to get into, because reality check, hindi talaga natin makontrol yung standards ng company, professionalism. So they have these standards. Siguro may factors like religion, diplomacy siguro. So they just have to first be sure if they're planning to get tattooed and to enter a certain industry na mahihirapan ka. And sa parents naman, which is very normal, it is a parent's task to guide their children, to ask them if they really want to get tattooed or not. But hindi naman yung sa part na kinokontrol na talaga na pinagbabawalan, because at the end of the day, these children would grow up to develop their own decision-making. And I think the decision-making skills is something na dapat i-grow up ng mga bata so that they can decide for themselves along the way. So siguro to sum it up, always be sure kung ano yung end goal mo or ano yung gusto mong ma-achieve. Do things without being affected with people's negativity, and always go back to what you are fighting for. And I think everything else follows talaga if you just continue on doing things without caring what other people say.
That's so beautiful. And I really want to thank you for giving us the time. And I really enjoyed talking to you and, hearing na, parang, just hearing all the insights you've created and built, right, for yourself to be both strong and weak and proud of it. Kung may gusto kayong pag-usapan, mag-iwan lang ng comment below or email us at sharekolang@gmanews.tv. We're also streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Thanks for tuning in.